morning, everybody. Casey, Casey, what are you doing up so early? Casey, you're normally sleeping. Well, guys, I wanted to welcome you to my live this morning. I'm coming to you from sunny Arizona, and I'm excited to dive into a really important topic. It's called insulin resistance or metabolic syndrome or metabolic health, right? But before I get started, I would love to know where you guys are tuning in from. So if you wouldn't mind, drop your location in the chat. I'm always curious where people are. And if you are somebody who is struggling with your health right now, this information could change your life. And if you know somebody who needs to hear this, feel free to share this live with them so that they can jump in, they can listen, they can ask questions too. Casey, appreciate you hopping on, brother. So I want to share something personal, right? And I pray that it helps you to avoid the same mistakes that I've made. You know, Solomon said in the Bible, "In all you're gaining, gain understanding." And when you understand insulin resistance, it'll change everything the way that you think about your health. And so I want to share some statistics with you because I think that that'll kind of, get you to think for a little bit. But 74% of Americans, so 3 out of 4, are considered overweight or obese. 93%, I want you to think about this, 93% of people in the United States are considered metabolically unhealthy. So if you and I are in a classroom with 100 students, that means that 7 students are passing and 93 are failing, right? 54% of people are diabetic or pre-diabetic. And 20% more adolescents are dealing with diabetes now than they did 10 years ago. So I want you guys to think about this, and I want you to think about your own health as I'm sharing this. Why are we struggling with these issues all the time? And most importantly, to understand is what you can do to start improving this naturally. So that's my goal, is to share something that can impact you in a positive way. So let me reiterate this, okay? 3 out of 4 Americans are considered overweight or obese. 120 years ago, when someone was obese, there were literal case reports written about these, right? These were the people that were in the circus. It was so unheard of 120 years ago. And now it's 3/4 of our country. 77% of our young adults are unfit to serve in the military because of these health issues. Now let's talk about diabetes. Okay. A full 54% of Americans have prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, which is a fundamental issue in our country. It's crazy to think that half of our country has diabetes or prediabetes. 30% of our teens now have prediabetes. You know, this was a condition that no pediatrician would have seen in their lifetime 50 years ago, but now it's, all we got to do is walk outside and we see it everywhere. 1% of, think about this, back in the 1950s, okay? Back in 1950, 1% of the American population was considered diabetic or had type 2 diabetes. And now fast forward 76 years later, and it's 54% of our country. We have 18% of teens with fatty liver disease, right? This is a disease that used to be found in late stage alcoholics, okay? Cancer rates are skyrocketing in the young and the elderly, okay? I mean, a young adult cancer is up 79%. And this is probably the first year in American history that we're estimated to have over 2 million cases of this. 25% of American women are on an antidepressant medication. 40% of 18-year-olds have a mental health diagnosis. We have the highest infant and maternal mortality rate in the entire developed world, despite how much we spend on research and infant maternal care than any other country, right? Don't get me started on autism, right? The number used to be 1 in 1,500 back in the year 2000. The screening hasn't changed at all, but now autism rates are, 1 in 36 nationally, right? It's crazy, and it's, believe it or not, it's actually worse in California. It's 1 in 22. Right? 26% of American women have PCOS, which happens to be the leading cause of infertility for women. Now, the thing that people need to understand is that all of these conditions are caused or driven by the exact same thing, which is metabolic dysfunction or insulin resistance. And you guys, I want you to think about this, because things aren't getting better, they're actually getting worse. And if you're struggling with any of these issues, okay, it's time to start connecting the dots. So let's talk about insulin resistance, what it is, why it's wreaking havoc on our health, and why it's not talked enough. Insulin resistance is not talked about enough. And the scary part is that most people don't even know that they have it, because it's rarely tested for. Yet it's a major driver of heart disease, which continues to be the leading cause of death worldwide. Okay. And here's the deal. Okay. If you want to make a big impact in business or life, you've got to be able to solve a major problem. Now, Tech, you said body not producing enough insulin, which causes hormone imbalances. No, your insulin's way too high, which is why we're having these issues. You want less insulin. A type 1 diabetic, right? Their body's not producing it, right? So they have to inject, they have to take insulin. But why is it that a type 2 diabetic is taking insulin? The reality is that insulin is high. We've got to lower this. And folks, if you want to make a big impact in business or in life, you've got to be able to solve a major problem. Okay? Insulin resistance is a big deal, and it affects people in your own family. I mean, folks, if we really want to think about our families, let's talk about our family reunion, right? If you were to go to your family reunion, you've got both sides of the family there. How many people are struggling with their health? Gary, good morning. Thank you for the heart me. I appreciate that. Okay. And folks, if you don't know what insulin resistance is, which I'm not sure how you wouldn't know what it is, because it's everywhere around us, I would encourage you to go and Google it and research it, because this is going to be a hot health topic for years to come. Okay. So, folks, I want you guys to understand that what I'm going to share with you, number one, is things that your doctor is never going to talk to you about. Okay. And we happen to be one of the worst countries in the world when it comes to metabolic health. And it's even worse in other parts of the world. Okay. So why are we all struggling with this? Okay. And again, think about your own health as I talk about this. Are you dealing with constant fatigue? Are you carrying some extra weight that you can't lose no matter what, right? Do you have the migraines, the cravings, the high blood pressure? Okay. Sorry, guys. And so I want you guys to be thinking about this. How many of you have the skin issues, right? The skin tags, the psoriasis, the eczema, the kidney stones. Okay. What if what you're feeling isn't just you getting older, right? Oftentimes, a lot of us put this thing that, oh, well, we're getting older, so this is normal, right? What I do, and ask yourself this question, okay? What if it's something way deeper? Maybe something that has been silently building for years, maybe even decades, right? Because if you understand insulin resistance, it can take 10 to 20 years before it even leads to a diabetes diagnosis. So what I do is I help people find real answers to the health issues that traditional medicine often overlooks. And if you're tired all the time, if you're foggy, if you're in pain, if you're gaining weight for no reason, okay? And maybe you just feel off. Number one, you're not crazy, and it's not just getting older, right? You're about to learn what most doctors unfortunately won't tell you, but it is called insulin resistance. And it is behind everything from brain fog and fatigue to nerve pain and stubborn weight. And if this goes left unchecked, folks, it turns into diabetes, then into neuropathy, nerve damage that can leave you in pain and perhaps unable to walk, even leads to amputations, unfortunately. Okay. But here's the truth. Okay. When it comes to insulin resistance, it is preventable. And the reality is that our body has been whispering to us for a long time, but no one's been listening, right? And so I want you to pay attention to what your body's telling you, much like you would respond to a flashing check engine light in your car. If I'm driving my car down the road and the check engine light comes on, it's telling you that something's wrong. And we either address it and look at it, or we find somebody who's, professional, knows what they're doing to look at it for us. But the reality is that if we don't pay attention, if we don't do something about it, things are only going to get worse. Balance with Kathy. Good morning. So what is insulin? Okay. What is insulin resistance? Now, insulin is something that is made by your pancreas. Okay. And what it does is it acts like a key to open up our cells and allows the glucose to enter in. And this is what we use for energy, right? This is the energy that powers your brain, your organs. But the truth is that when you flood your body, all right, when we flood our body with too much sugar and too much processed food, what happens is that your cells stop listening. They stop listening to insulin in the way that they should be responding. This is what develops into insulin resistance. And now instead of fueling your body, right, that sugar, that excess glucose in your body now gets stored as fat and it causes inflammation. Now, this isn't about pushing pills, okay? It's about understanding and fixing the root cause, okay? It's helping to get your body back to clearer thinking, okay? Steady energy. Maybe living pain-free again, if you remember what that's like, right? And the key to all of this is improving how your cells function, especially when it comes to insulin resistance, okay? When your insulin receptors aren't working, okay, it can lead to major health problems, okay? And if we can fix that, your body can heal itself. Your body can start to repair itself. So I want each and every one of you to think of insulin resistance like a fire that is burning out of control, okay? The fire represents the root cause, which we know to be insulin resistance, and the smoke are the symptoms that you're feeling, right? Like weight gain and fatigue and skin problems, okay? The truth is that most of us are just trying to push and blow away the smoke, right? We're treating the symptoms instead of addressing the fire, okay, which is the root cause. Now, the big issue here is that most doctors aren't talking about insulin resistance, which happens to be the root cause behind a lot of those issues, okay? That is why I'm passionate about sharing this, because you could have symptoms from insulin resistance and never even know it, okay? The good news is that you can correct all of this without feeling like you have to rely on your meds or diets for the rest of your life, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you two simple, effective ways to reverse insulin resistance naturally, okay? Without crazy workouts and without restrictive diets. And I'm going to talk about a tool that is helping people globally, right, all over the world. So whether you're dealing with type 2 diabetes, weight issues, or anything else, okay, this tool happens to be changing people's lives. And I'm going to explain how it's helped myself. I'm somebody who donated a kidney to my sister's husband, and it was, 7 years later when I was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney disease. Okay. A lot of people are using this alongside their medications. Okay. And some people have maybe even been able to get off, okay? And so, okay, folks, a lot of people are using this alongside what they might already be doing now, okay? And many, again, have been able to even lower or, in some cases, completely get off them. That's what my goal is, okay? Is to share something that can make an impact, right? So we've talked a little bit about some of the insulin resistance symptoms, right? That some of these might surprise you, but many people are experiencing these, and oftentimes people just brush this off to we're getting older, okay? But the truth is that your body's telling you something serious is going on, okay? And some of us might not be listening, okay? How many of you have the belly FAT, right? The skin tags. How many of you are peeing all the time, right? Frequent urination. What about joint pain or high blood pressure? How many of you have a meal and you crash after that meal? Okay. How many of you are constantly hungry? Okay. I had all of these. Okay. And I had no idea that they were all connected to one thing, which is insulin resistance. Now, here's a big one, right? Type 3 diabetes. Okay. Have you ever heard of it? It's insulin resistance of the brain of an adult. It's linked to Alzheimer's. It's linked to dementia. And the scary part, folks, is that it can take 10 to 20 years before insulin resistance progresses to a diabetes diagnosis. The good news, though, is that any one of you can take action now to not only prevent it, but to start repairing our bodies. Our bodies are pretty amazing. And I think that with all of the restrictions that I continue to have with TikTok, is that the only way that TikTok will push this content out is if you guys are tapping the screen. And so if you're getting value, if you wouldn't mind, and thank you to those that have already been doing that, right? I don't get the restrictions, I really don't, but I'm still going to get on here every single day and I'm going to teach you the truth. I think it's important for us to understand why we have these health issues, why our body reacts the way that it does. But most importantly, it's important for you to know what can we do that can start to improve our health, right? Without feeling like we've got to be on these meds for the rest of our life. Folks, insulin resistance can be that fire can be burning out of control for a really long time. So, but I want you guys to understand that these symptoms that you're feeling, they're not just normal aging, okay? Just because we're getting older doesn't mean nothing, right? Aging does not have to mean a slowing metabolism, okay? There's people in their 70s, and I have a customer who's 89 years old who has literally tried everything. And it wasn't until he came across the system that I use that it completely changed everything, okay? So if you feel like you've tried everything, pump the brakes a little bit, because what I'm going to share with you could literally be an absolute game changer, okay? We are seeing a rising rate in childhood obesity, osteoarthritis, okay, dementia, migraines, okay, PCOS, fatty liver disease, okay. Did you guys know that before 1980, okay, fatty liver was only seen in alcoholics? And now 25% of our kids in the United States have this. Okay, even 3-year-olds, ladies and gentlemen, are being diagnosed with what is called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Sugar and alcohol, they both go directly to your liver, right? It's where it gets broken down there, okay? Folks, the question that we should be asking ourselves is, how is this happening? Okay? It is time that we start connecting the dots. Now, here's the thing. So many health issues that we have are all connected to insulin resistance. And too often, we are just given medications instead of addressing the root cause. I think of my mother, who's prescribed more than 24 medications, right? She's prescribed meds for just about everything. But all they are, folks, is a Band-Aid. We're too often medicated, and no one is focusing on why our bodies are acting up in the first place. When you understand what insulin resistance, it all comes down to insulin. We have too much insulin in our bodies, and your cells become resistant to it. Okay? So the question is, how do we start to control insulin? And if any of what I've shared with you up to this point sounds familiar, you're not alone. Okay? The good news is I have helped hundreds of people improve this. Okay? So if you're ready for a change, okay, what I teach people is a natural alternative to what you might already be doing, or maybe what your doctor is doing. Okay? That helps you to lower your insulin levels naturally. It helps to improve your energy. How many of us would love to have more energy throughout the day? Okay. How many of us would love to see real results without feeling like we have to be on a specific diet for the rest of our life? Right? Or feeling like we have to go and do 2 days at the gym just to get there. Okay. You know, I donated a kidney to my sister's husband, and it was 7 years later when I was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney disease. And I was told that if I didn't lose weight, if I didn't change my diet, that I was going to end up on dialysis. And so my nephrologist, you know, my my nephrologist told me that I needed to lose weight, and I was prescribed a couple medications that first and foremost didn't help. It didn't work. In fact, if anything, it made things worse. And it wasn't until I learned what insulin resistance is where it made the biggest difference in my life. And so now I get to share this with people. And if what I share with you resonates with you folks, you don't have to wait to fix your health. Okay? What I love the most is that any one of you can try it. Okay? It comes, and you need to really seriously think about utilizing something that for the next 90 days, if it doesn't work, you get your money back. If you are checking your blood work daily, or you're going to your doctor and they're doing it for you, okay, you will notice a difference in 90 days from now when you use this system. It's not rocket scientists, okay? You know, it's simple, it's easy to do. You know, anyone can do it from day one without a single hitch. Now, most of us are living with toxic buildup in our bodies, right? So I want you guys to think of a dirty swimming pool, okay? You know, if you've ever seen a murky pool, it's green, the water's nasty, nobody would ever get into it, right? That swimming pool is full. I want you to imagine and picture that it's full of toxins from stress, poor food choices, medications, maybe the environment that we're in. But all of this can lead to conditions like diabetes or high blood pressure, and even the C word that we celebrate in September, okay? And a heavy reliance of medications. Now, and then there's neuropathy, okay? This is a condition where your nerves get damaged and it causes pain or numbness and even balance problems, okay? And what happens is it all starts when our body's defenses, kind of like the myelin sheath, right? It gets worn down by these toxins, okay? And, you know, how many of you struggle with belly fat, right? This is the fat that surrounds your midsection, right? It's more than just annoying, right? It's actually a health risk because it's full of toxins. It is linked to things like stroke, especially for diabetics, right? Now, here's the problem with modern medicine, okay? Most people go to the doctor with these symptoms, right? And they often lead with medication. But what's happening, okay? These medications often mask the symptoms. And essentially what they do is they're adding fuel to the fire without ever addressing the root cause, which happens to be insulin resistance. And ultimately, medications will eventually damage your liver or your kidneys. My question to you is, how many medications are you on? My mother's on more than 24 of these. But how many of you are on a bunch of medications? Okay, if you are, it's like being a toxic swimming pool. And folks, what if instead of, instead of chasing the symptoms, what if we tackled the root cause? What if we tackled the one thing that's causing all of these issues? And then if we did that, that we can improve our health so much that your doctor either reduced or eliminated your medications over the next 3 to 6 months, what would that do for you, for your family? My question to you is, do you have a desire to make that happen? My goal is to help you to focus on the root cause and not just the symptoms, right? We can treat the symptoms all day long, but these symptoms are going to continue to come back until we address what's actually causing them. So how do we fix insulin resistance, okay? And the solution is a lot simpler than you think, right? So, by the way, okay, the system that I use has been around for over 30 years. It has been studied at more than 50 world-renowned institutions, like the Cleveland Clinic, which happens to be the #1 heart hospital in the world. It's been studied by Stanford, UCLA, UNLV, BYU in Provo, Utah. Okay, it's safe, it's effective, it's easy to follow. And what I love is that you don't have to give up your entire life to start getting these results, right? You don't have to change everything, right? This is why I love getting on here and teaching this, right? There's two things that I teach: fasting and fiber. Okay. So what I do, and some of you might be asking, well, what is it that I'm drinking, right? What is it that I'm sipping on? I skip breakfast. Okay. Our bodies actually run better when we wait first thing to eat. So when I wake up, I don't eat breakfast. I push that back. I push that first meal back until lunchtime. Okay. And if I'm hungry around lunch, I'll have lunch and I'll eat as normal like anybody else would. But what I do is I sip on a chlorogenic acid tea that helps to reduce my hunger. It keeps my blood sugar stable, okay, throughout the day. And what I do is I drink it first thing in the morning, so it curbs my appetite. I do that in the afternoon after I've eaten lunch, which helps me to avoid snacking in the afternoon. How many of us are literally grazing or snacking all day long? So I do that. I sip this in the morning, I sip it on after lunch, and then right before my biggest meal of the day, which for most people and for me is dinner, I take this blend of plant-based fibers, okay? I mix it with about 8 ounces of cold water. I shake it up vigorously, and then I chug it down. And this is like having a salad before I eat my big meal or any meal, okay? When I take this fiber, it's like having a salad before my meal. And it creates a barrier which helps to eliminate or reduce the glucose spike and the insulin spikes, okay? So whether I'm eating healthy food or whether I'm indulging in a pizza, what I love is it helps to, minimize the glucose spike and the insulin spike that comes as a result of the types of foods that we eat. Now, what I love about what I use every day, and I'm encouraging each and every one of you to try it for 90 days, is it helps to manage your insulin levels. Okay. And it's not just about weight loss, it's about improving your overall health. So if you're struggling with weight or fatigue or even blood sugar management, okay, this could be an absolute game changer for you. Okay. It was interesting because one of my clients told me that it was the first time in over 10 years that they actually slept throughout the night without blood sugar issues or without waking up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. Okay. I mean, that's a huge win, right? Now let's talk about what we've all been told. Okay. We've been told to move more and eat less, right? Drop a 1 in the chat if you've ever heard that advice. Okay. And of course, we've been told the calories in, the calories out is the key to weight loss, right? But let's think about this logically, okay? If I'm eating 1,500 calories a day and I'm going to the gym or I'm exercising and I'm burning 2,000 calories a day, that is a 500 calorie deficit each day. And in theory, I would lose about 1 pound a week. But if that were true, and if I weighed 200 pounds, I don't. And if I did this for the next 200 weeks, would I end up weighing nothing? And the answer to that is, of course not, because our body is a lot smarter than simple math. Guys, our body is pretty smart, right? It adapts. When we cut calories too much, your metabolism will actually slow down to math, okay? And so now suddenly your body is burning less. Your body is storing more. And now you feel even worse than you were before, right? And here's something wild, folks. And they've known this for over 100 years. There was a study done back in 1919 at the Carnegie Institute of Washington that when people restricted calories, they became tired, hungry, they lost muscle, it's called sarcopenia, and they even had a 20% reduction in their heart function. Does that sound familiar to anyone? Okay. If you've ever experienced any of these, type me in the chat. Okay. Now, insulin resistance is most of our struggle, right? I had the belly fat, right? The migraines. I had migraines for 23 years. I had acid reflux. I had anxiety and depression, sleep apnea. I mean, how many of us can relate to that? And the reality is that all of these are signs that your body is resisting insulin. Folks, insulin's job is it's supposed to help your body absorb sugar and fat, right? When we eat food and we spike our blood sugar, your body sees this and your pancreas releases a hormone called insulin. Insulin is like the Uber driver. It goes and it picks up the glucose out of our bloodstream and it tries to deliver it to your cells, right? That's what's supposed to happen, right? But when your cells resist, things get messy. And let me tell you, Dr. Benjamin Bickman wrote a book called Why We Get Sick, right? He's an expert on insulin resistance, and he helped me to understand. Turns out it's not just overeating, right? But it's also about restricting calories the wrong way. So with insulin resistance, okay, your blood sugar spikes after meals. And what happens is that your insulin starts to work overtime. And what it does is it's storing that sugar as FAT. So when insulin levels stay high, your body literally keeps storing fat instead of burning it. Okay. High insulin also weakens your immune system by up to 50% for up to 2 hours after eating. So folks, when we eat all day long, okay, 3 meals plus the snacks, what happens is that you are keeping your insulin high and you are shutting your body's ability to burn your stored energy, right? And you're shutting down your immune function nonstop. Keeping insulin low, that's where the magic happens. Okay, low insulin allows your body to start burning your stored energy, your stored FAT. And when you do that, when you're keeping insulin levels low, it helps to support healthy hormone levels like testosterone and estrogen, right? So, and don't get me started on breakfast, okay? Right? That was something that was made up in the 70s to sell you more cereal and bagels, right? And if you've ever been told that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, I was too. The reality is that breakfast, right? The first meal that we have, whether that's at 8 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock at night, the key is what you eat. Because that first meal of the day sets the tone for everything else. Okay? And maybe breakfast was just a marketing tactic, right? To sell us more cereal and bagels, which that's kind of what's going on, right? See, breakfast just means that you're breaking your fast, okay? But fasting is your body's natural way of burning fat and actually healing. Okay. When insulin levels are low, okay, your body will utilize that stored energy as fuel, and it'll help to boost your hormones. It will help to repair your cells. Okay. It's almost kind of like your body's built-in detox and weight loss system. Okay. There's no gimmicks needed, right? Because your body will naturally do this. When you skip breakfast, which is what I do, and May, thank you so much and thank you to everyone who is tapping the screen. It amazes me that we only have 12 people on this live, but that's TikTok restricting me. Okay. But when you skip that first meal of the day, okay, your body is literally burning your stored FAT for energy. Fasting is a game changer because when we fast, we're keeping our insulin low. And that's when your body literally starts to burn that stored energy, right? This is where you start to see your love handles disappear, maybe your midsection, right? This is why fasting is such a game changer. So user 745, feel free to message me and I'm happy to send you the details, okay? Here's where it gets wild though, okay? Sugar. Sugar is one of the biggest culprits, okay? You want to know the number one fast food restaurant in the world? It's sugar. The more sugar you eat, the more insulin your body makes. And over time, that is what leads to insulin resistance. Now, Dr. Robert Lustig, okay? Dr. Robert Lustig wrote a book called Metabolical, okay? He is a nutrition genius, okay? He explains it all in his book, okay? He's been a huge help in understanding how we can turn this around, right? Now, insulin resistance, again, affects most of us, okay? Now, sugar, I think we could all agree that sugar is pretty addictive, right? Sugar is hidden in over 262 different names on our food labels, okay? It's one of the root causes of insulin resistance, and it's one of the root causes of fatty liver and high cholesterol and high blood pressure and even Alzheimer's and dementia, which is now being referred to as type 3 diabetes. Okay. Right. Folks, do you think it's important to understand what's causing this so that we can address it? Or are you guys okay with just managing your symptoms? Because that's the reality of most of us. Far too often, all we're doing is throwing medications at our symptoms, but they don't fix the root cause. What I teach people is how to go longer periods of time without, eating food and drinking calories and sugar and things like that. Right? Teaching people how to have whole foods, right? Like apples, right? That are packed with fiber. Okay. When we have juice, it's just sugar and water. Okay. And what happens is it sends your blood sugar through the roof. Fasting and fiber are two simple things that I teach, right? We've got to get more fiber in our food. We're not getting enough. In fact, we're getting less than about half of what we should have. Okay. Folks, this is the root of a ton of health problems. Okay. 90% of health conditions come from metabolic dysfunction. And 93% of people in the United States have some form of degree of insulin resistance. So if you're at a family reunion, you probably know at least 10 people dealing with this. The crazy thing is it can take years, even decades, to develop into type 2 diabetes. But once you get there, it leads to crazy health risk like heart disease, Alzheimer's, right? You guys realize that if you're diabetic, which is more than half of our country, you are 80% more likely to develop cardiovascular disease and 81% likely to develop Alzheimer's. So how do we fix this? Okay. It's about working with your body, not against it. Now I use a simple tool. I sip on a chlorogenic tea, right? This is what it looks like. Okay. I sip on this first thing in the morning and after lunch. So I start my morning with this chlorogenic acid tea. Okay. It helps to lower your insulin naturally. It keeps you feeling full, so you're not craving food or feeling like you've got to eat. Okay. And it helps you to wait until later to eat in the day. So it keeps your insulin low. And when your insulin again is low, your body is literally burning your stored energy. Okay, that's what we need. When you do eat, you want to prioritize protein, healthy fats. Okay. If you're going to have carbs, okay, save the carbs for last, because this will ultimately have the biggest spike in your blood sugar. Robert Smith, thank you for that. I appreciate that. And again, thank you to those that are tapping the screen, okay, and sharing this, okay. When you do that, you're pushing this content out to people that are needing these solutions, right? And at the end of the day, folks, if you're struggling with your health, okay, you have zero to lose if you're willing to try something that can be a game changer. This is not about weight loss. It's about reversing insulin resistance. It's about regaining energy. It's about taking control of your health, okay? I've seen hundreds and hundreds of people around the world, including myself, and countless others, reverse the symptoms of insulin resistance. Hey, drop a comment in the chat if this is making sense. And let me know if you are ready to take control of your health. Let's do this together, folks. Insulin resistance is absolutely one of my favorite topics to talk about. Okay? Folks, I had no idea what insulin resistance was because it's not something that they teach in school or in even most doctor's office. And Marina Lulo, and folks, feel free to send me a private, okay? If you want to send me a message here, I've put my information up here. I've also, right, this is a list of a lot of the symptoms that people have. Okay. So, folks, if you have a doctor that is talking to you about insulin resistance, hold on to them. The sad reality is that most healthcare professionals, they're not addressing it, even though it is the root cause of so many health issues, okay, that we're facing today. And this is why I'm here, not just to educate, but I want to empower you to know what you can do to start improving your health naturally. That's what this is all about, okay? Folks, I believe it is so important to understand why we have these health issues and, more importantly, what we can do about them, okay? These are the two ways that you can start improving insulin sensitivity and reversing insulin resistance naturally, okay? And the first one is fasting, okay? Remember, fasting is the quickest way to get your insulin under control. The moment you start to get insulin under control, okay, everything changes, okay? Folks, do you struggle with low energy? Put yes or no in the chat, okay? Do you crave sugar or carbs a lot? And if you do, type cravings in the chat. Might be for real. So I fast anywhere from 18 to 24 hours, okay? I will have 1 to 2 meals a day. I used to eat 3 meals like everybody else, okay? But I have 1 to 2 meals a day. And when I'm sipping this tea, it literally shuts the food noise off. That's what I love about it. Is I could be around a buffet, I could be around food, and I don't care. I'm not craving it. Folks, when your body starts to heal itself, like when you start to get your energy levels back, it's an absolute game changer. Some of my best workouts are on 24 and 48 hour fasts, even 72-hour fasts. I've gone to the gym and I'm lifting with weights. Our body is pretty amazing, right? Our body has the ability to heal itself if we give it the right environment. Okay. Does that make sense? So what I encourage people to do is that if you can skip breakfast, right? If you can, and instead, first thing that you're going to do is you're going to sip this chlorogenic tea. And it's just going to shut the food noise off, right? It's going to allow your insulin levels and your blood sugar to come down. Okay. That money that you would have spent on that meal, you're going to invest back into you. Okay. The system that I'm talking about costs around $5.20 a day. Okay. Which is less than a coffee at Starbucks. It's less than what we spend on, coffee and snacks. I was talking to somebody yesterday who spends, he said upwards of $5 to $6 a day on Celsius. He's having at least 2 Celsius every single day. So folks, skipping one meal, you can't even buy a healthy meal for $5. And when we take into account the snacks and what we're eating throughout the day, folks, when you start utilizing the Feel Great system, okay, it's a game changer. You will find that you will save more money being on this than before. It's pretty amazing. Okay. EG, thank you so much for tapping the screen and for sending those hearts. I appreciate that. Okay. Folks, when you get your insulin under control, okay, your blood sugar, your cholesterol, all of these will start to normalize. Okay. And your body will start to improve, right? Your energy levels will come back. The brain fog will go away. The mental clarity will improve. That's what this is about in getting our health back. Okay. The truth about sugar and insulin, folks, is that when we wake up in the morning, we've all been taught and told to eat things like, fruit parfaits and lattes. We've been told to have oatmeal for breakfast, cereal, orange juice, bagels, right? But every single one of those things turns into sugar in your blood. I've had a lot of customers that have told me that, their kids don't eat sugar, right? Or they don't eat candy, right? But they love pasta and French fries and mac and cheese and pizza. And every single one of those things, unfortunately, turns into sugar in our body. Too much sugar in the brain of a child leads to ADHD. Okay. Too much sugar in an adult's brain leads to Alzheimer's and dementia. Okay. So here's the deal, right? You wake up in the morning. Okay. Now we're often drinking that smoothie, right? Or that orange juice. And what happens is your blood sugar spikes. And your pancreas has to release insulin to bring it back down. Okay. And then it's lunchtime. So now we're having a sandwich or a burger and fries. Okay. It's more sugar, more insulin. And by dinner, you've been on this sugar roller coaster, by the way, right? Spiking and crashing, which is basically telling your body to store fat, shut down. And what it does is it shuts your immune system down. It lowers even your testosterone. Okay. And it gets worse because this sugar cycle, it messes with your blood pressure. It causes inflammation in your arteries. We're talking about plaque buildup. We're talking about joint pain and kidney disease, even erectile dysfunction. Okay. Some of you may have even been told that salt is the bad guy for blood pressure, right? Drop salt in the chat if you've ever heard this before. Here's the truth. Okay. It's sugar, not salt. Sergio, brother, how are you, man? Okay. It's not. It's sugar. Has nothing to do with salt. In fact, if you're in a medical emergency, guess what? Salt is precisely what our body needs. Okay. Now, your body will hold on to about 4 grams of sugar in the bloodstream at all times. Okay. Any more than that, and it triggers your fight or flight response. Your heart rate goes up, your blood vessels constrict, okay? Your blood pressure rises. And insulin resistance, it messes with your aldosterone, right? Which is the hormone that balances your salt and water. And so it causes even a higher blood pressure, okay? And the funny thing is that if we are in a medical emergency or if we're in the hospital, they give patients a saline IV, right? It's salt water. Even farmers use salt lick for their animals to keep them healthy, okay? Gene Parrish, how are you doing, brother? Okay. And yet the crazy thing is that you and I were told to avoid salt, but yet doctors are prescribing water pills, which is just patented salt supplements, okay? Folks, here's how simple this is that I use every day. I wake up in the morning and I sip on this. Not only does it taste amazing, but kids love it. And I just sip on it all morning, okay? I sip on the second one, okay? This is a natural insulin sensitizer, okay? So for those of you who have ever been, if you're on metformin or if you're on, if you've ever heard of these GLP-1s, right? This chlorogenic tea is a natural metformin. It's a natural, it actually helps to boost your body's production of GLP-1, okay? And then before your biggest meal of the day, you have this blend of plant-based fiber that was actually created by Rexall drugs. Some of you probably had, grandparents and relatives that used to work for Rexall drugs. Okay, Rexall created a fiber back in the 1980s, early 1990s, right? And they said that this fiber was going to change the world. Okay, and it really has. It is changing the world. Okay, so folks, if you're serious about improving your health, okay, you don't have to wait to fix it. Okay, if you're ready to make a change, okay, feel free to message me here. Okay, I'm happy to send you the information that you need. If you want to jump on a call, I'm happy to do that as well. Every single one of you that decides to purchase this, I will be your sponsor. I will be the one that will be helping you through utilizing it. I'll help you to understand how to use it. Okay, it is simple, it's safe, it's easy. Okay, folks, when you tackle insulin resistance, okay, you're going to naturally improve your cholesterol levels. You're going to lower your cardiovascular risk. Okay, you're going to boost your overall health, which is the reason why I get on here every single day. Okay, this is why I teach this. Okay, we're in over 60 countries. Okay, this product has been third-party tested hundreds of times. Okay, and what I love about it is it helps to improve insulin sensitivity, which should be your goal. And when we get our insulin under control, everything changes, folks. Everything. Okay. If this resonates with you, if this sounds like what you have been looking for, what you've been praying for, you don't have to wait. Okay. Folks, I've got just a couple more minutes and then I've got to go to an event. But are there any questions on what I've shared so far? And thank you to those that have hopped on this live and tapped the screen. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Here's why fasting is such a game changer, okay? It helps to reboot your stem cells. It gives your gut a break, okay? It reduces inflammation and autoimmune chaos that's happening inside your body, okay? And when you fast, you're just giving your body the ability to repair itself, okay? Now, the power of fiber, when you have the right type of fiber, right, soluble and insoluble, okay, it feeds your good bacteria. It acts like a prebiotic, okay? It helps to regulate your blood sugar. It prevents fatty liver, okay? It crushes your cravings, okay? Morning, Keith, okay? Folks, every time we eat, especially sugar and especially carbs, what happens is that your blood sugar goes up, and that triggers the release of insulin, okay? Insulin is what helps your body to absorb the sugar. But over time, we're eating too much sugar and we're constantly snacking throughout the day. And so what happens is that your cells start to resist insulin. And this is what causes the cycle of insulin resistance. Okay. And so when insulin can't get sugar into the cells effectively, it starts getting stored in places where it shouldn't be, like your liver, your joints, even your brain. Okay. And this is what creates a cycle of the health, laundry list of health issues that a lot of people have. Folks, if you're looking to improve your health, don't wait. Okay. If you're on the fence as to whether or not you should order the Feel Great system, it comes with a 90-day guarantee. So if you notice absolutely zero changes in the next 30 to 90 days, I will make sure and help you to get your money back. This is not about making a sell. Folks, we're the only company in the world that has a natural plant-based product that is clinically proven and guaranteed to work. And if that resonates with you, I'd love to help you to improve your health. Okay. Folks, any questions before I hop off? Just making sure that I'm not missing any questions here. Well, folks, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for hopping on this live. Okay. God bless you.